Hi, it's Anne-Marie from Charmed Live Therapy. I was just going to adjust my camera, but I won't bother because I might have a calamity. Um, it's time for me to have a little catch up about the whole Baldoni thing because there's been a lot happening and I haven't spoken since before we got the details of the audio out. So that, yeah, I just wanted to give my perspective on that and what's happened in the last day or so in terms of Blake now having a further means of tackling this problem that she has of having no evidence, literally. So yeah, what do I feel about Claire Ayoub and the recording? Oh, it's really, really interesting, isn't it? And I would echo the sentiment of people that are saying, please do not go lambast her on her social media, because the thing is, no matter what she's done or not done, the thing is, you never know somebody's mental state and you never know how fine a line they are treading. People can appear like they've got it all going on and just be gone in a moment. So I would never, ever tell you to go and tackle them on their social media, whether their comments are open or not. I've never dumped anything on Blake's social media or Ryan's social media for that matter either. It's up to you whether you do that, but I think that kind of thing just rebounds on you. So I would always say not to do that. And I think possibly some of the things I'm going to say today aren't going to be so popular. But anyway, what do I think about it? So it seems like it's been a Zoom meeting, doesn't it? But it's interesting that because it's like, how do you record a Zoom meeting without the other person not being aware of that? I don't really know how you do that unless she's had some kind of device sat close to the speakers or whatever. But it's a very clear recording, I think, for the most part. The sound quality sounds very good to me, which is interesting. I know some people have noted that at one point it does seem like there's a tiny bit of an edit, as if the word Blake could have been omitted when it comes to the point of the conversation where they're talking about that Blake and Ryan, uh, in effect, were going to do something in regards to the Baha'i faith and kind of stir in the mud about that. And Claire Ayoub is heard to ask him who he was referring to in terms of doing that. And there's like a little gap that's just long enough for somebody to have said Blake, but it may have been that he mouthed the word Blake. You know, sometimes we do these things, don't we, rather than saying them, especially when we don't literally want to put voice to them. It's almost like an out, isn't it? Just mouthing it. I didn't actually say that. If you read it as that, that's you, not me. So it could have been a little bit of that. There is a tiny noise there as if it could be something, but who knows? And I'm not sure it's that important, really. It's really interesting, isn't it? Because if Steve Sarowitz was the one that called this meeting, when you just sit and listen to it, if you did not know, you would think that she had called the meeting, wouldn't you? That she was leading it and steering it. Um, it reads to me subtextually, if that's the right word. You know, because I'm always looking at kind of what I feel like is going on underneath. It almost feels like, because obviously you've got to bear in mind the fact this was all happening when the whole It Ends With Us press was, everybody was wondering what the hell's going on here, why aren't they together and all of that. And clearly she said something or raised an issue. And of course you can understand from Wayfarer's perspective that all of this is going on with Blake. The last thing they need is some other woman that's been on one of their productions coming out and saying things of any kind, that are negative. So I imagine, I don't know what's gone on set. My feeling is that whatever has happened on her Empire Way set, if anything did happen regarding Justin, I again think it is. I mean, if you look at some of Claire Ayoub's posts when she's telling you how to deal with people saying things to you in the street or commenting on you or whatever, it's very weird responses that she gives. It's the responses of somebody who is encouraging you to be really oversensitive and jump down people's necks and be quite cutting in response. So that to me would suggest that she is somebody that's a bit delicate in terms of she's really defensive, and possibly feels like she has to prove herself. So if she's like being writer director of this Empire Waste, and Justin's on the production side of things, and obviously if you're on the production side of things, you have to kind of keep things on track and bear in mind budget and timing and schedules and all of that thing. You're looking at the projections, aren't you? And it's like the money is on your head basically. So it could have been something as simple about just a conversation where he's needed to speed her up, focus her, keep her on track. Whatever it is, I mean, we can see with Blake how she's taken Justin wrong in that just a difference of opinion, difference of personality. And I think this is the same thing. We do seem to have this world now where people are vastly oversensitive and take everything to heart and can't take constructive criticism. And that's Blake's problem as well, isn't it? But yeah, I feel like she's called verbal abuse, somebody just trying to be a bit firm or a bit clear or something along those lines. Because why else wouldn't you say, well, like umpteen times, it's like, to me, it's like Steve Sarowitz has said to himself, I better have a meeting with this girl because it sounds like something is generating in her head. And I don't want it generating in her head like it did in Blake Lively's head, because we cannot have two instances of this going on simultaneously. So it's almost like he's opened up an avenue for her to say whatever has bothered her and to talk about things in general. But I feel like Steve Sarowitz has gone into it in the terms of, well, let's just listen to her and see what she's actually going to say. I feel like he's gone into it trying to find the subtext, the undercurrent himself. I bet he was even in terms of trying to prod a little bit to see if she had heard anything from Blake or had any direct communication or been influenced in any way, because Steve Sarowitz, as Ryan Reynolds likes to call him, is a multi-billionaire. So he's a very busy man. He doesn't have all the time in the world to listen to Claire Ayoub for 38 minutes straight or however long it was, bang on about all the nonsense that she banged on about and ass kissing and all the rest of it she was doing without there being an ulterior motive on his part, I think. And I think for him, it was to let her ramble on and see what came out of it. And he also gave her ample opportunities to say whatever the problem was with Justin. And the worst that she did was whenever he mentioned him and how everybody loved him, how could you not love Justin? She kind of went, yeah, yeah, right, or something to that effect. She didn't come out like most normal people would do and say, well, yeah, I can see everybody else seemed to get on with him, but I just found there was this personality clash, or I didn't like how he spoke to me when he did XYZ. I mean, we can tell from how she's talking that she's relatively comfortable speaking freely in front of Steve Sarowitz. And, we can all have conversations with people, and even with somebody who's very close to somebody. And you could have a conversation with them about that person they're close to and say, look, I appreciate that you and them get on very well, but he and I just seem to clash when it comes to XYZ. And there's nothing wrong with having a conversation like that, is that nobody can take offense to that, because it's simply it's the human thing of navigating. We all have differences, even when we want to go on the same path or have the same end game in mind or whatever it is. So my feeling about that recording, I do wonder if she was groomed by Blake and Ryan and the meeting itself was a setup, that Blake and Ryan somehow, pure hyperbole on my part or conjecture or whatever you want to call it, I do wonder if there was some element of it being a little bit of a setup. I do wonder about that, because she did poke and prod a little bit to see if she could get more information about the ends with us issue, didn't she, and Blake and Ryan? But yeah, I'm not sure about that, but I just think the whole recording is rather odd because it's like, what was the purpose of it? Because she rambled on a lot about bits and bobs of marketing or wherever she was going to pop up and that, but it didn't seem like he was bothered about any of that. He was just letting her do whatever she wanted to do, basically. To me, he was in a way they might have both been fishing. She was fishing to see maybe what she could get out about Blake or get him to say something, maybe. And he was fishing to see what she was playing at in terms of what accusations she might levy against Justin and what was the basis for it. Because, at one point he did just go on about how everybody loves Justin. How could you not love Justin? He's basically saying, tell me why you don't love Justin. And she didn't say a damn thing other than, yeah, right, yeah. And she did seem a little bit awkward at that point. And that kind of makes me think, has somebody been whispering in her ear and making her feel like Justin is a bad guy? Muddying up, because we have this, don't we? Brendan Sklenar, Isabella, whoever else on the set of It Ends With Us, they thought one way about Justin, and somewhere down the line, things have got muddy in their heads, and suddenly it's, oh, is he a good guy? Was it a good experience on that set? Interesting, I think. Yeah, but again, in terms of a smoking gun for Blake, it's absolute nonsense, isn't it? Every time she supposedly had a smoking gun, such as the dance montage, or even going so far back as the original text that she cherry picked, this was a smoking gun. But yet, the minute the context is given and clarity is brought to it, or something's unsealed, it's like, oh, well, that's not what it looked like, is it? And it's like, it's the same thing all over again with the audio, isn't it? Cherry picked tiny little piece. Um, and it's like, how did she ever think that she was going to? You have to be pretty blinkered to think you're going to get away with these things, that nobody's going to question it, that you're not going to be held to account. It's like how she wanted to claim emotional distress and negligent emotional distress, but she didn't want to prove in any way that she had it, that she'd experienced it. She doesn't even want Ryan Reynolds to be deposed and have to say, oh, well, she was like this, she was like that. I was having to text her all the time and make sure she was okay. I had to turn up on the set to make sure she was supported. None of that. But it's like, I think that speaks to the delusion, doesn't it? That she's never been called to account on anything. She's just been free to lie about anything and everything and invent stuff, and nobody's ever called her to account on it. So she can't understand this now. So every time one of these smoking guns is exposed, she needs to come up with something new to start a new fire or explain the old fire or whatever it is. So now we've got spoliation of evidence. So Wayfarer specifically chose Signal because they knew that it would delete all of their nefarious texts, and she would not have evidence as a result of that. But the thing is, when you start off a lawsuit, from what little I know, you're supposed to know what was done to you, how it was done to you, have some kind of evidence of your own, or be aware of where to get it, because you know the source of it. But she doesn't have any of that, does she? It's like Wayfarers are supposed to give her case. And, it's like she's accused them of that a time or two, that they keep saying that we have to point out XYZ, or they expect us to, prove their argument or whatever. But it's actually Blake's side that have never had a case and have expected deposition to give them a case. They thought they'd find dirt of some kind or other, even if it wasn't specifically related to the charges necessarily, that there would be enough muck raked, that they would find something on someone. But it seems like this Baha'i faith thing is pretty good at in terms of keeping you into, maybe we should all turn to the Baha'i faith, because if we all speak like Steve Sarowitz and Justin seems to and Jamie seems to, it's maybe something we should all be looking into because they do seem to communicate in a very loving, non-blame kind of way, even when you're doing pretty terrible things to them. So I don't really necessarily want to go through the whole document. A day or so ago when it first started, yesterday it came out all of this about the spoliation. I thought, oh God, I'm gonna have to do a, a video about this bloody document now. But when I listen to like people like Not Actually Golden specifically, and I looked at what she was saying, I thought this isn't even worth really going through it all. And of course, we had Stephanie Jones jump on it as well, in terms of she's now accusing of the same thing, that they specifically use Signal and they should have known that it would delete and blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, it seems like Gottlieb specifically told them, gave them this preservation order around about the 20th of December, is it? So basically, anything that was on Signal, and it Signal's by default seems to be set to auto delete. So it would have been long gone. So that, but they're trying to turn that as that was a nefarious choice on their part, that they specifically chose Signal because they were doing dirty dealings that they didn't want to be found out. But it's like I've read a couple of little bits of the paperwork that's come through, and I can understand, like, you know, like separating it out from the other threads of your life. So, like, if you're business people, PR people, you know, obviously you've got chains going on, you've got text message chains going on, you might have a WhatsApp chain going on. It makes sense to me that they went, let's use Signal specifically for this, because it separates it out from your other work. Because, you know, we forget that these people, in amongst all of this, are having to just continue working and living and running businesses and showing up on sets and all of that. So I don't find anything nefarious in the fact that they chose to use a Signal to have a little group of Jen, Melissa, Brian, and Jed, and whoever else, you know. But it seems like this spoliation argument now, it's coming across a bit weak, isn't it? It's coming across a bit desperate. It's flashing in big neon letters that they've literally found nothing, really, which is what Wayfarer have kept trying to tell them all along, that what you're after simply does not exist. And they gave them those 80,000 pages of whatever that were clearly a lot of nonsense and really not much of anything at all. But that was because that was what it is. That's why they didn't provide it in the first place, is my thinking, because it literally gave them nothing. So what was the point in handing it? I literally feel like they didn't give them that because they didn't want to burden them with it, because it was pointless. But Blake doesn't want to hear that because she's desperate. So let me just screen share, because there was a couple, I just kind of had a quick look at it, and there were a couple of little things that weren't sealed amongst the exhibits. But the thing is, it's all the same things that we already know, that the kind of trying, you know, like they keep making the same arguments just in a different way, as if the judge hasn't already dealt with them. And this is the same thing. They're referring back to the same exhibits and trying to give them a new context. And it's like we've already seen them, we've already absorbed them, we've already analysed them to hell. There's nothing more to be said. You know, time for summary judgment, isn't it? Really, that's what you feel like, I think. But let me just screen share and refresh my own memory with what I've set aside. So what have we got? I think it's that. Right. So this is one of the emails that's tagged as an exhibit in one of the, I can't remember whether it's Abel's now or Lively's. It's probably in both. It's probably the same thing. So it's from Katie Case, and it's about the original plan, I guess, the social media plan, which is basically what Blake wants to call the digital campaign, isn't it, against her. So it's again referring back to that. Is part of this accusation of spoliation and what have you. So it's basically it's things we've seen before. So we'll be influencing forums that are working against Justin and Wayfarer to adjust the narrative in real time and collate assets and background to work in conjunction with Jen and her team as well as tag PR. So it's monitor and report forums, threads, sites, links, and more that are working against Wayfarer Studios, Justin and the overall narrative, as well as derogatory comments. So I don't find anything wrong in this because as long as you're not answering with slanderous stuff, if you're more just trying to, you know, divert the course by a few degrees with one or two more flattering comments or whatever it is, especially if those things are actually true. It's like, what's the problem, isn't it, really? So leverage relationships with Discord, Reddit, XIG, TikTok, YouTube, etc. to expose behaviour of Blake and other parties. So that's the first time I've seen this to expose behaviour of Blake. Now, I suppose she's taking that as to mean digging through her background and giving it to people, you know, chasing up people like Kirsty Floor and things like that to expose her. But I think that is just about, you know, if they're trying to say it was Justin here, well, we're going to have to tweak that because, in our opinion, clearly it wasn't. So both current and past and engage directly with communities to adjust or influence the conversations taking place in real time. So it's like none of this is like, let's spread a load of lies about Blake, is it? Utilize CTR manipulation and contextual links to push up positive PR to change the subject matter opinion on the first page of Google. And it's so silly because this is all things they would have been doing on the other side of things. Work to remove links that are harmful to Wayfarer Studios, Justin and the narrative. Harmful to them. They're allowed to defend themselves, disavow and report outdated or cached non-relevant links and clean up spam on or negative links that are ranked within the SERPs as needed. You know, monitor damaging Reddit, subreddits, X and Discord, including threads related to concerning opposition and manage the narrative. You know, they're having people monitor and protect peripheral elements like Wikipedia, because obviously, like, you don't want a bunch of stuff suddenly landing on the various Wikipedia pages related to the people involved. So people needed to be watching social media. You know, you needed a team like Jed's because you didn't know where this thing was going to pop up, basically. Kind of like playing whack-a-mole, isn't it? You have to have somebody sat there just like kind of watching all the things to see what's going to go on. So it did take a team, I'm guessing. Actively sway the algorithm with one SEO charged hub site created and overseen by the team, taking down full Reddit and all social accounts. So all in all, it's nothing that we don't know. And there's the Taylor Swift comment there again. It's like, at what point is she going to get, Blake, that we know all of this and we're not bothered? It's, you know, so, and this was one of the only other things that was attached to it that we can see right now. Is again, it's the text message chain that we know about, where basically this must have been just around about the time that Blake and Ryan decided they wanted Wayfarer to put out that statement accepting blame for everything and all the negative press. And now in this spoliation, this motion, what they want to say is from the moment you knew, basically. Well, actually, I think they go further back than that. I think they're trying to now engineer it that from that they should have known at the time that the original back to work 17-point list, they should have known that they were under threat of litigation back then. And they should have all gone into the settings of every app they had and their emails and all the rest of it and made sure that nothing would auto delete. But you can't just invent that. It's like you have to have one of these preservation, you know, you have to send somebody a specific letter with specific language that says from XYZ date, be on your warning that we're likely to sue you, do not delete anything. And all they've got It's Mike Gottlieb doing that on December 20th. So this case is kind of frustrating, isn't it? Because Blake has had so much leeway in terms of being allowed to reverse engineer when it started, future project when it ends, basically. But yeah, so it's just basically this email chain, and it's mentioning people like Danny, which I assume is Danny Greenberg, who was Justin's agent. I'm on with Jamie and we need to fill you in on something that's fairly urgent. And Melissa's kind of not really free, not available. I can call in 15. Is that okay? Give us a ring when you're somewhere quiet, Jen said. Katie Warren just called me, Jen Abel said. Now, Katie Warren's a journalist. And Melissa's gone, OMG. Jen's gone, like, I can't deal with this today. And Melissa saying, what the actual F? This is the craziest shit I've heard. Jen Abel goes, a statement? Question mark, exclamation mark, blah, blah, blah. Melissa, I've done a lot of stuff and I don't think I've ever heard something like this before. And I think that's what you hear in terms of not actually Golden and some other people in terms of the legal side. It's like, I've never heard somebody try to make this argument before. You know, somebody trying to say it's on you to give us the evidence because we don't have it. And if you don't have it because it doesn't exist, then we're going to go to the judge and say that he has to tell a jury that you have purposely deleted stuff. So basically, we can't believe, we have to take into it, we have to look at this case in terms of our case, Blake's case, has been hampered by your side deleting stuff. So you just have to believe what Blake says, which kind of is the party line throughout this, isn't this? That if Blake talks and Blake says something, you have to believe Blake. And that is the problem, stemming all the way right back to the start. Blake Lively can know she is lying to you, but you still have to believe what Blake says, because that's the way the game works in Blake Lively's head. And if you don't play that game, Blake Lively is going to play the victim card and she's going to blame you for that. That is the thing. So they're clearly absolutely flabbergasted. So Melissa is saying, I'm nearly home to write the email, but I'm so confused. And then they're referencing a Daily Mail article, which must have popped up. But this article, I don't know if I can, I don't know if I'm tech savvy enough to switch screens and do it at the same time. Let me stop the share. I'm scared to death I'd lose you because I'm not good at this stuff technically. I don't know if I think it's this screen. See what I'm doing. No, it's what do I need to do? It's here, but I don't know if you'll see it. You might see it. So this is the article that was referencing, and it's Hollywood's. Is it this? No, it's this one. I'm going to show you the wrong one. Blake Lively is slammed over how she styled the actress playing the younger version of her character in new movie It Ends With Us. So that's the article that's tagged in that post there, that message. And it is, you know, slating Blake a fair bit. So Blake Lively might be considered a fashion icon in her own right, but the internet is not pleased with how she has been styling the actress who plays a younger version of her character in new movie It Ends With Us. So I imagine this was wouldn't have been a very nice article for Blake to have read, but you know, maybe this is an article that is one of the ones that she kind of takes issue with as to was it a genuine article or was it the Wayfarer up to no good, basically. But I guess these were just sharing it between them just as to the current state of play of what the current landscape was looking like in terms of what feedback was going on around things. And most people said the same about the styling of young Lily, that, you know, bracelets up to her armpits and stuff that didn't go with the dress. So the film has been plagued by rumours of a vicious feud between Justin 40 and Blake 36 for weeks, as the on-screen love interests have not been pictured together or done press side by side. And now people on social media are roasting Blake for her lack of styling prowess. during the press tour. I mean, I don't, hopefully you can see it. It does say I'm screen sharing, so hopefully you can. So, stylists were weighing in on it and all of that as well. It's decidedly odd, I think. So obviously Isabella was saying she did style me. This is all her doing. Prophetic words, kind of, isn't it? Um, Isabella was even wearing Blake's shoes. She's been an absolute angel and a mentor and a big sister to me, Isabella said, calling Blake a new best friend. However, not everyone was impressed with the hand-me-downs, despite the sisterhood of the traveling pants vibes. This styling is so unhinged. This is why you hire professionals, Shannon tweeted to his almost 8,000 followers who agreed with his sentiment. So that just shows you in itself, doesn't it? This is a person saying, why is Blake Lively styling this girl in her moment, this girl's moment? It's her breakthrough moment. He's tweeting that to his 8,000 followers, but Blake Lively does not want to see that that is organic. That is somebody having a professional opinion about something that Blake Lively has admittedly done. And he's saying, this is crazy, this is so unhinged. This is a woman who doesn't have a stylist that's got the nerve to say, I'm going to style you, when she doesn't have a stylist of her own or understand how it works. And he's obviously tweeted something out to his 8,000 followers. And those 8,000 followers will have gone off and had an opinion of their own as well, and to their own followers and their own connections. But this is the thing, is Blake just doesn't get this organic nature of it, that it was her own actions. One person tweeted, I'm going to say something that has the potential to be incredibly controversial. I do not think Blake Lively is the style icon she or anyone else believes her to be. So this is not all coming from, Jen Abel and Melissa Nathan. Gracie, don't know where I'd be without her. Well, probably styled better for one thing. You know, oh my OMG, somebody else is saying, it's giving, I couldn't say no to her. And I remember a few videos back when I was talking about this outfit with all the bracelets, that I could see them like getting ready together in a room somewhere. Blake saying, I should put each bangle on her arm, and this one costs this, and this one costs this, and this is from here, and this is here, or the so and so gave me this one, and like building up that sense of, look what's available to you when you're on team Blake. You can have this, and you can know this person, and this will happen for you. Just as kind of hypnotic, somebody slipping bracelets on your arms, your eyes just going, ooh, a bit doing that. So yeah, so they were referencing that and what was going on at the time, I guess. But this isn't coming from them. They're just noting that this is the current mood. This is what's being reported, So anyway, what else have we got? Let me think. Let me go back to stop sharing, just in case I lose you again. I've got so many tabs open now and I don't know what I'm doing. Which one do I want now? Yeah, back to that. So yeah, so Brian has no conflict, I asked him. Ashley doesn't, but she's hesitant as a firm to take on WME if it comes to that, whereas Brian isn't. Plus he's representing a lot of women, so plays there in terms of recent clients, all women. It's so funny, I actually recommended Brian, and Steph was the one who shut that down. That's coming from Jen Abel. And Melissa's saying, you can imagine how infuriating this is for the likes of Steph and Blake to read, can't you? Well, I would say is whatever she shuts down, literally do the opposite. And that's because Steph Jones is an absolutely neurotic nightmare that they can't trust, isn't it? So Jen Abel laughed at that, and Melissa's on her way to Puerto Rico. And then it says here, Jen Abel says, LOL, Baldoni asked about Baha'i faith. And I wonder if this is when, things were maybe being said or trying to shit stir about the Baha'i faith. And because Matthew Baldoni is a former, oh God, what do they call him? He worked for Hollywood Reporter. and I think he's got his own podcast now. So I've got something there to bring up in a moment. Um, so Melissa's going, oh boy, what did he say? And Jen's saying, just to confirm that Justin's partner with Wayfarer is of the same congregation. Jamie sidestepped it well. But interesting, Jen says. And that could be connecting back to the audio, because at some point Steve's talking about this, isn't he? And he says Jamie handled it well, whatever was trying to be stirred about the Baha'i faith, that they got it shut down. So obviously Wayfarer were under considerable pressure. They were being harassed on all sides, basically. It's like when a narcissist does come after you, it's on every level, and when you shut it down in one way, it pops up in another. If you're being stalked and you block them off your messages, they'll, I don't know, whatever comes next, they'll try WhatsApp, they'll email you, they'll go on community forums and message you through that. They'll just turn up at your door, they'll physically call you or use somebody else's phone. They'll send a person round who they've gone off and talked a load of shite to. It's absolutely relentless when you're dealing with people like that, and I think that is the thing. But let's just see if I can bring up this Matthew Baldoni thing. Let me see if I can do it like this. It says I'm sharing. So this article is Hollywood's Villains of the Year. So this is this Matthew Baldoni. So this is towards the back end of 2024. Hollywood's Villains of the Year are the Ends With Us publicist. Like so like in August time, when this text thread is going on, these girls are dealing with people like this that are towards the end of the year will be writing stuff like this, against them. Blake Lively's legal complaint against co-star Justin Baldoni and his team of operators exposes the sinister subset of the crisis communications industry that seeks to attack and misinform, even as Lively's own tactics and the role of notorious publicist Stephanie Jones come further into focus. So this Matthew Baldoni was clearly fishing back in August for whatever was going on amongst the set. I think he's written a fair bit, I think, in terms of covering this case. So obviously I can't read any more much about that because I'm not paying for him, that's for sure. So let me just, sure there was something else I was going to talk about. So let me go back to share. Bring that back up. It's not that now. Ugh, what am I doing? Forgive me for a minute. Bear with me a sec while I fish around and figure out what I'm doing. I can never remember, but there, hopefully that's it. So yeah, blah blah, but interesting. Numbers don't lie though. At least they're saying the box office is making money. And that's when they come down to Blake and Ryan want Justin to put out a statement. This is unbelievable. And they're trying to figure it out. And I guess they're trying to say their argument, this is 12th of August, and Melissa's saying lawyer up now. But the thing is, it's again this argument of it wasn't on them to decide when to switch the setting on signal, was it? It's down to Lively's side to have created a specific event in time where we said where they said to Baldoni's team, you may not now delete anything that you have in terms of this case because we are going to sue you. And it's looking like there's nothing really specific until Mike Gottlieb seems to have pulled his finger out on the 20th of December and said this is it, don't delete anything. But by that time, on both sides, how much has been deleted? And always bear in mind, in fact, that when it came to this search criteria stuff, Blake wanted to know what their search criteria was, Baldoni's team. So, but she didn't want to say what search criteria she'd used for giving them information. So there's an awful lot of nonsense around this case that, Wayfarer quietly just beavering away regardless. I mean, they would have expected something. They'll have been expecting this spoliation argument for quite some time, I would imagine. And it's always interesting that these kind of things come out. Like everybody says, the instant Blake gets a bit of bad press or she's disproved in some way. But that's it basically. So that's just a couple of bits of things that are attached to these new arguments. I don't think I'm going to bother reading through it. This is the Jones Works version of the same thing, of accusing them. Well, they can't accuse them of physically really deleting messages, but they're saying they should have known blah blah, and they were using Signal because they knew it would auto delete and all of that. And honestly, I just don't think I'm going to give them the credit of just reading the argument any further. It's really funny is all of this victimization and this victimhood, and it's kind of an unpopular opinion of mine that people sometimes take issue with. It's like me locally. There is a lad who runs a Facebook page or something, and it is ostensibly it's to have less people unaliving themselves in this area of the Highlands, which there's not this far north in the Scottish Highlands in Caithness, there's not really much in the way of mental health support. And there's also, lack of options for young people and stuff like that. And especially during the COVID time, I think there was quite a problem with mental health, in young men particularly. I think it's not an unusual occurrence up here, young men committing suicide. So there's a lad on Facebook that, is in a similar situation himself. He struggles with his mental health and openly does so. But his whole shtick, if you like, is about promoting to me, it's promoting the idea of anxiety and depression and all of the subvariants of it as a lifestyle choice. It's like, you can't do anything about this thing. This is how we have to live, and you have to understand that. And when you refuse to understand that, that's when young men are going out and unaliving themselves. And that's my problem with it, as somebody that spent a long time with depression and anxiety and never stopped fighting to find out why or what the solution was. And speaking as a person who gave up on conventional help because after decades of messing about with it, realizing it was never going to get me anywhere, that it was on me. So I feel like I do have the right to kind of say to people like this, and I've never directly communicated with him, but sometimes I get the sense when I've seen something of his, it almost feels like a response to something of mine. So I've often wondered if sometimes something of mine has angered or triggered him a little bit, because I'm very much about, you can feel those things. You can be terribly depressed. Of course you can. It's a natural process to be depressed. We're supposed to be depressed from time to time. We're supposed to go inwards and examine what's going on and take some downtime and figure it out and figure out how to come back out of it. We're not supposed to do it as a lifestyle choice and live on benefits our whole life, because it's not a very nice way to live. So my whole thing is always about, how do we get these people that are struggling in this way? How do we get them back on track and not just being a depressed and just being an anxious person and going to support groups and just talking about, oh yeah, my anxiety was really bad yesterday. All right, my depression was really bad yesterday. Because where does that get you? If it was working, the problem would have gone away. So the problem, that's clearly not solving the problem. So I feel like I sometimes, if he is seeing me, that might be entirely in my head, but I do think sometimes I've put something on, the next thing I've seen something of his and I thought, oh, I think he's seen that and not liked it, because he seems to take umbrage with the idea of, you're not stuck like that. And I don't believe anybody is stuck in depression ad infinitum for the rest of their life. Depression means something has happened to you. It means something needs to be addressed, something needs to be changed. It's not stay on medication for the rest of your life that is messing with the chemical balance of your brain. That is not the way to go. And the thing is, people on these things are dealing with horrific side effects a lot of the time. I mean, you pretty much lose your libido with most of them. That it's and what is that going to do to you as a young person? So I so what I'm saying is, I feel like this case is like this. It's like, at what point is Blake Lively going to understand that her choices aren't working for her? That it's like me. I played the victim for years in my own life when I was lost to it. I mean, maybe I'm lucky in that it's the personality I am. That even while I was playing the victim, I kept thinking there must be a solution to this, and I kept trying this and I kept trying that, and sometimes I white knuckled my way through stuff that absolutely terrified me because I've been suicidal lots in my life. It's nothing new to me. I feel like I'm free to talk about it because I've been through it. I spent years in my 40s feeling it. You know what I mean? So, I feel it's this case reminds me of it in so many ways. It's how many times, Blake Lively, are you going to be battered on the head with the truth and just refuse to admit it and choose to stay this course? I keep saying when we come out the end of this, I won't be surprised if she made a movie out of it or a book out of it or something, because she will never lose. She because she just can't. It's a lifestyle choice for her at this point in time. And anxiety and depression can be as well when you choose to stay in that victim role, that the world is doing this to you, that it's nothing to do with your actions. The amount of times I've offered free services or free help to people that have really been on the edge and they haven't taken me up on it. You know what I mean? So that's, if somebody's literally saying to you, I could save your life, and you say no, then that is on you. It's not on the world. And I feel like this case reminds me. This is why I'm saying this case is so interesting in a way, because it's such a stupid case and such an unnecessary case. And yet at the same time, it's making us examine all kinds of things that maybe we otherwise wouldn't have examined. Uh, and that's kind of when I kind of can look at Blake and Ryan and think, in a way, in a weird way, they are performing some necessary service to the world in doing this, as hateful as it seems, and how unforgivable it seems, and all of that. And I'm sure Justin is off somewhere, trying to keep his mind in that frame, like all of this is happening for a reason. There must be a purpose to all of it. I'm sure all of these things are running through his mind to some extent. But there was all that ridiculous stuff the other day, wasn't there? Over Blake at this point in time putting out, well, using other people's stories in her own story about DV and statistics and DV Awareness Month and all of that. It's like, how can you not see at this point that nobody in the whole world is buying you as the spokesperson for this cause? You didn't do it at the time you had the opportunities to do it. You were too busy selling cocktails based on a domestically abusive man, wasn't she? So let me just have a quick check of my notes and see if there's the trouble with me making notes is that I tend to intersperse. I use the same notebook for everything, so it's interspersed with hypnotherapy techniques and bits of ideas I've had for clients. So then I go looking for what I've done, and it's like, I don't know what the hell this is. Yeah, it's basically the notes that I've made about the audio the other day, my gut feelings about it. Oh yeah, that was the thing. In the audio, there's an interesting little bit where I think it must come around at the time where he's saying, and it's funny, isn't it? He never mentions there in that recording that he'll spend $100 million to ruin Blake and Lively. So where has that come from in Blake's thing if it wasn't on that recording? Because it's not there in that audio. But Steve Sarowitz says something somewhere where he goes, I don't think Blake and Ryan are billionaires. And and that's I just thought my little ears pricked up and I thought, I bet that really burned Ryan Reynolds when he heard that. And maybe that is why all across these documents on a regular basis there's multi-billionaire Steve Sarowitz, like it's his first name, isn't it? And I think that stems back to hearing that in the audio, and because it's all about money with Ryan, isn't it? Money and power. Um, so I think that's what bothers him more than anything, this idea of people being better than him or wealthier than him or more popular than him, I guess. But yeah, that kind of stuck with me out of the audio because Ryan wants to be perceived as number one and he's losing all of that. And it's like I've literally written underneath that small man syndrome when it comes to Ryan Reynolds. And I'm saying to myself, yeah, but Ryan Reynolds is tall. And then I thought, yeah, but Steve Sarowitz is really tall, isn't it? If you look at Steve Sarowitz next to Justin Baldoni, who's like 6 foot at least, isn't he? Justin looks tall when you see him next to a woman. But you see him next to Steve Sarowitz, and he looks like a tiny guy. So that's it kind of put small man syndrome in my mind. Yeah, and I've just said kind of what I said already. Claire may be emotionally coercible. She doesn't seem particularly cohesive in what she says on the social media, I don't think. And what have I written? I don't think Justin verbally abused her. I think there were times her conduct was affecting production and he may have spoken to her about it, if anything. Otherwise, why wouldn't there be some talk in that meeting of what she's endured? And there was nothing like that. So that's my feeling on it, really. I feel like he offered her the opportunity of a meeting because he wanted to get to the bottom of her reasons why she wouldn't want Justin as part of the promo for her movie. It almost reads like there was no form, because if there was a formal accusation of verbal abuse against Justin Baldoni, wouldn't there be a bit of paperwork attached to all of this? The affidavit, you know what I mean? If you're going to rely on somebody's affidavit and somebody's audio recording as part of your claim for treble damages, would you not also, if it existed, have their formal bit of paperwork where Wayfarer said, fine, we acknowledge that Justin had XYZ bad behaviour, and as a result of that, we agree not to have him on the promo of your movie. Where's that official bit of paperwork? Again, this lack of formal HR process by people who claim that they have made a complaint of something or other. They have not made official complaints if there's no HR paperwork. If they have nothing in their possession that says they did that thing, and they never made a formal HR complaint, did they? And I feel like this thing with Claire is, I think probably Wayfarer said, Justin possibly wasn't even going to go to the promo of her movie anyway because of the stink of what was going on with. They didn't want more questions about anything at that point in time, did they? Because the water was already murky. It was neither here nor there to Wayfarer, I don't think, if Justin went to the Empire Waste promo or took part in it. I just think this is all smoke. It's all, well, as many people are saying, a nothing burger. But I think Steve Sarowitz thought, right, let's set up a meeting then. She's clearly not happy about something, and I'll literally just say very little. I might drop a bit of Blake in and Ryan just to poke the bear a bit and see what pops out. But I literally feel Steve Sarowitz was sat there quietly thinking, well, let's see what she has to say. What's this problem? And nothing came out of it, did it? But he had to do it in terms of making sure this wasn't somebody that was going to run out to the press and start saying all manner of things. So I feel like there was, like I said, I feel like it was both sides sussing each other out, you know, dancing around each other, if you like. But I do I do question whether she was set that up as part of a mission to get something, because it's clear, isn't it, across this case, there's nothing unless, well, unless Justin Baldoni physically hands them something on a plate. There's no case in terms of Blake. So she needed somebody like Claire Ayoub, and that's just an idea. It is just conjecture, but do find it interesting. So, what are you thinking about it all? Does it surprise you that they are now wanting what somebody was saying? Is this the sixth or seventh lot of sanctionable behaviour now that Blake has levied against the Wayfarer side, and so far the judge hasn't dealt with any of it? Um, because I guess it's a lot of these things can't be dealt with anyway till either the case is over or it's right ahead of the case, because events are still unfolding, aren't they? But yeah, I hope that was of some interest to you, as messy and as jumbled as it was. But I'm very aware that because I'm focused on other things as well, and my actual work is sometimes it's gone more days than I intended to before I do before I do, and it ends with us catch up. And yeah, I'm very aware that interesting things are happening, like the audio, like this, if you want to call it interesting, this desperation on Blake's part, this anger, this fury that she's had all of this information, all of this discovery, and she can't really drag up one bad word. One thing where they've said Blake is an absolute out and out bitch, and she effed this up and she effed that up and she screwed us over, and yeah, we're going to get her and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and we're going to have so and so call her this on the internet. There's nothing, and she's absolutely furious about it because she's being made to look an idiot in the only way that it counts to her, which is in the face of public opinion, isn't it, really? But yeah, it's again this case, lots is happening and nothing's happening because none of the information is new. It's just her putting a different spin on it out of desperation. So really, in some ways, there's not an awful lot to report. It's interesting kind of thing that Andy over at Popcorn Planet, he now has to produce a privilege log to prove, I guess, whatever he had in terms of people he's been speaking to and evidence gathering and information gathering, that it's not Wayfarer people, and that, having to prove that it is reporters' privilege and the rest of it. Because this was the point at which Lively caved in terms of Perez Hilton, wasn't it? But in a way, Andy has accidentally done himself a disservice, hasn't he? Because he went straight to the paid legal route. He did the just give or give, I don't know where it is, just giving or something like that, didn't he, to get some help paying it. But he might have been better to do the Perez thing and try tackle it himself, because then the ACLU stepped in and helped Perez. And at that point, Lively went, shit, didn't they cut this off, Whereas now it looks like, unless something happens in the next few days, it looks like it has to go forward with Andy. And I think she's more bothered about him in terms of he's creating a documentary as we speak, isn't he? And has been doing for some time. So I guess she's very worried about what he has. So that's still ongoing. That does seem to be progressing. And the motion to quash the subpoena just didn't happen. The judge goes, no, you're going to have to come up with a privilege log and be sure that this is journalistic privilege and all the rest of it. But yeah, it is interesting. I'm also ready for it to be over and not feel beholden to it anymore. But yeah, in terms of your life, and why I brought the anxiety and depression thing into it, is it's very important that you never just tell yourself, this is the way it is. This is happening to me. I have to stay on this same course because I've been on it for a year, 2 years, X amount of months, whatever it is. So I can't deviate. I can't change. I can't back off. I can't apologize. I can't forgive somebody. I can't does not help you. It's clearly not helping Blake Lively, and it doesn't help the people that are struggling with anxiety and depression and telling themselves, well, I'm on the 1 year waiting list for the NHS or whatever system it is, so I can't do anything else in the meantime. I just have to take these tablets and get up if I feel like getting up, and stay in bed if I feel like staying in bed. Um, and just go to that, just, go along to my help group once a month and talk about how bad it is to have depression and anxiety. That's not going to work. That's what I'm trying to say. And an awful lot of people don't like hearing that. But I feel like I have a right to say it because I've been there. I mean, my mum gave me a really backhanded compliment once about when I was kind of worse depressed, if you want to call it that. And I got branded with depression and anxiety. What I actually had was a case of unmet childhood needs. And that this is what I'm saying over depression and anxiety. It's a coverall for things that have happened to you. That's the symptom. It's not what happened to you. You know what I mean? And that's what you have to deal with. It's no good saying depression and anxiety is my identity. It's not an identity. It's a symptom of something that went wrong with you that needs to be addressed in order that you don't have these things. Yeah, my mum said to me, at least when you were really depressed, you still got up and you still did. And I thought, is that meant to be a compliment that at least I wasn't vegetating in bed? I did get up and I got washed. I've had really backhanded compliments in my time, but maybe I'm just lucky in terms of I'm incredibly stubborn, even to my own detriment or to my own good at times. But I will keep pushing, solution, fix it. What's the issue? How do we correct it? And I guess a lot of people don't have that, but what I want people to take on board, even if it feels offensive to them, is that, yeah, I'm saying that's what I did, and a different person in a different situation might not do that, but I'm telling you it worked for me. That the only way you get out of depression and anxiety is to stop just talking about it as if it's your identity and to do something. It's like those groups that, where people just go along. They'd be better off helping somebody into some kind of voluntary work or some stimulation of some kind, or getting them a routine and structure so they have to get up and they have to get out, or they take up a hobby, or they get a dog or a cat, or, well, dog's better because you have to go out with the dog, but you know what I mean? It's about giving somebody something to live for, isn't it? You know what I mean? You don't just sit on a waiting list saying, especially, it's such an help because if in your area you know that there are no services available, that you might be on a 2 year list to get help. Well, if that's either you yourself or your son or your daughter, you don't just waste 2 years of your life while you wait for some outside source to fix you that may not even fix you anyway when it comes to it. Because a lot of these services are just a lot of this. It sounds good in theory, but it does nothing. Or it's an outside company that's contracted to offer a set of services. And they're just getting money for old rope. As far as I'm concerned, in a lot of cases, you'd be as well going to the likes of me or somebody out there that you resonate with, that seems like, go check the reviews or whatever it is, find out about them. You'd be better off just, even if you had to get a credit card, whatever it is, don't just sit and do nothing, or don't just let your son or daughter suffer and waiting on some government, some system, some magic drug that will never change the actual circumstances that caused it. So that's what I'm saying, basically. And I know lots of people don't want to hear that when they feel those feelings. They feel like they're stuck in those feelings, like they can't do anything about those feelings, that they're justified in living the way they are. And it is a choice. And they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear it is a choice to give up and to surrender to it, And that's, like I said, that's what I feel with Blake Lively. Is like, she just, a vision is so tunnel and she doesn't care what she's doing. She doesn't care that this has ruined Claire Ayoub's life and her career and her prospects in this industry. She doesn't care what happens to Claire Ayoub. You know, she doesn't care what it's doing to her own children at home, that she'll be in a bad mood often and stuff, and going up and down like a yo-yo, you know, and acting bipolar probably at home and God knows what. You know, she doesn't care because she's like laser visioned on that thing. I have this is happening to me, I am a victim, those are the enemy, even though in my mind I know the real truth. She knows the truth and she doesn't know the truth at the same time, because the true truth doesn't suit her narrative. You know what I mean? So anyway, you drop me a comment. That's just me raving for today, and I will see you again soon.